our all-city NFL draft expert, our professor of the grabby grabs. Good to see you, Mr. Duffy.
What's going on, guys? Another big Eagles win.
Good to see you.
Easy, never a doubt, Fran.
Fran, what a crazy win, right?
It's another one of those wins where there's plenty to love and then there's plenty to complain about. And so everybody's happy in Philadelphia.
All right, I want to get some of your big picture thoughts actually before we get into the breakdowns, because I know we're going to break down some of the cool red zone plays. We are going to break down the punt block by Cam Latu and that huge sack at the end that Vinny was telling us about from Moro Ojomo. But beyond that, what did you make of just the general offensive flow of this game, things looking so smooth in the first half and then kind of grinding to a halt in the second half?
Coaches love to say that every year your team, it's a brand new team, right? Even if you're bringing back all 11 starters on a unit, it's going to have a different field from one year or from one team to the next, one season to the next. And I think that's absolutely the case here with this Eagles offense, at least what we've seen through 4 games. Last year's team would have been able to salt this away. You get into 4-minute drill and you're able to just kind of bog the other team down and say, you know what, we are not going to give this ball back and we're going to anaconda you to death until the final whistle. That's just not the way that this team is able to move the ball right now. You go back to last week and they get into hurry up in 2 minutes and the ball's coming out of Jalen's hands fast and they're able to consistently move the ball. You come out in this game and you can just see like they were in such a rhythm in that first half. It's play action, it's RPO, it's quick game, it's vertical plays. Like you had a little bit of everything and they were able to just kind of chunk their way down the field. It wasn't big explosives, but it was quick, it was precise, and they were able to move the ball. There was creativity. And I think when you get into right now, when you look at this run game, they're just not, whether it's 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, it doesn't matter what personnel grouping right now, they're just not able to run the ball with authority. And so much like last year at this very moment, this very exact pivot point where you go back to, they go into the bye week. It was an early bye week last year. And they came out against the Cleveland Browns and things changed on both sides of the ball. I think you're looking at this team now and say, like, what is the best version of the 2025 offense? I don't know that it's, hey, you know what? Like we're gonna throw to score and we're gonna run to win. I don't know if that team is built this way right now.
I think that's a great point, Fran. And Jeffrey Lurie has talked about this, how, in today's NFL, like September is kind of like fact-finding for yourself and figuring out what your team is like. And I think you're absolutely right. This team, and credit to them, for going 4-0 while figuring this out. But I think you're right. They cannot proceed from now on offense like they have the same rushing attack as last season.
No, I mean, it was like time and time again, they come out and there was the one driver, they come out like 13 personnel, I formation, and they're 2-yard loss. They come out 12 personnel pistol inside zone, 1-yard loss. They come out and they run counter out of 11 personnel, 1-yard gain. Like for a team that's going to be in this kind of situation, number one, they've got to get better at it, but I don't know that they can build the plane out of it either. They really can't make it the focus of what they're doing. Last year at this time, it was the opposite, where we were saying, hey, like they're trying to be a passing team, but look at what they're doing running the ball. And right now it's the inverse. And I'm interested to see like how they're going to continue to adapt off of that.
Just to back it up a little bit, according to True Media on the season, in both rushing success rate and rush EPA per game, if it's just running back runs, they're 15th or 16th in the league, whereas they were 6th last year. And that's not even factoring in the volume, which was so impressive last year. And so I think the thing that they've learned, if they're going to try to change things, it's not even that the passing game is on fire. It's that if we can just not think about the second half of this game, I think right now through 4 games, they're getting the best version of Jalen Hurts that they have ever gotten. And so build the offense around that, because he is seeing things quicker and better and more clearly than I think he ever has before.
Yeah, and he's making great decisions. He's poised. I mean, there were some inaccurate deep balls in this game, especially when you get into the second half. Him and A.J. Brown just could not get on the same page. It wasn't for a lack of targets in the second half of this game. But I think when you're looking at Jalen overall, like on the whole, he's been awesome. I was listening to you guys at halftime, and you guys that was one of the best halves of football we've seen Jalen play. Obviously, the numbers did not look good in the second half. Our friend Deniz, the professor, put out a nugget that they had 11 dropbacks. There was one successful dropback from the Eagles in this game, and it was a Jalen Hurts scramble. Like they could not get anything going, but a lot of that also had to do with the fact that they were behind the sticks so often because of negative run plays. And so I think, look, the second half was ugly, but overall, I think if they're going to look at this in the way that this team is built right now, I think it's got to be funneled through Jalen Hurts in the pass game.
Fran, real quick before we start getting into some of your grabby grabs, Saquon Barkley in the pass protection this year. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I want to go back and watch some of the ones from today, just off the film, because I did that breakdown in the pregame show about the Todd Bowles blitz package, and one of my walkaway thoughts from that was sometimes it looks like it might be on the back, and it's not always on the back, right? And so I haven't been able to really get a great look at all of those, so I don't want to pass judgment without really being able to break those down. So I think that's something that we'll definitely cover at 2:00 tomorrow.
All right, let's get into the aforementioned grabby grabs, and let's start with the big play
We need
on
a new name for
defense on that final Bucs possession, the one that Vinny was talking about, where Jalen Carter sets it up and Moro Ojomo finishes the sack on Baker Mayfield with authority. How did you see that one play out?
Yeah, this was a really nice scheme here from the Eagles and Vic Fangio on 2nd and long. It's 2nd and 12. We can go to the first one here, Andrew. It's Ojomo 1. And what you're going to see here from this play is that you're going to get an overloaded front from the Eagles, where Jalen Carter is going to slide to the left side of the center, offensive left of the center. And you've got Ojomo over there. You've got another defensive end over there. Zach Bond is blitzing from depth from the opposite side, and you've got a defensive end on the opposite side as well. So it's going to be a 5-man rush. They're going to play straight man-to-man across the board opposite that. They disguise it pretty well with a too-high look before the snap. And so it's going to be straight man-to-man with a 5-man rush. And what I like here from the Eagles is that you're going to get a TT stunt. You're going to get Ojomo and Carter working in tandem. First, Carter is going to work upfield as the pinner on this stunt. And Vinny, I want to actually ask you about this because you were so good in this role over the course of your career. So I'm sure you can offer some coaching points that you see here from Carter on this one. But if we go to the next one, Andrew, the first shot that you see is Jalen just flying off the ball. Like that first step, his ability to threaten that gap against that center. Now that center, even though he's sliding left, he should be responsible for anything, that's going to cross his face or come into his gap. Because Jalen is so explosive, he's able to not only get into his pads, but now that center is in panic mode. And Andrew, if you go to the next shot, Ojomo is going to play off of that, and he's going to cut off the backside hip of Carter, and he's going to work inside. Now he just makes a straight beeline for Baker Mayfield. So this is set up from Jalen Carter. Outstanding execution on his end. I would be remiss if I also didn't mention, if Andrew, you go to the final one, Baker, he pump fakes on this one. He wants to try and make a throw, but the coverage was so tight on the back end. You had Cooper DeJean down there. You had Quinyon Mitchell down there. They did a great job at the bottom of the screen in man-to-man coverage, and he delivers Ojomo a huge hit on Baker Mayfield. It sets them up for 3rd and a mile. And then when they get off the field on 4th down. So, for me, like this was a TT stunt that was beautifully executed between Jalen Carter and Moro Ojomo.
Man, that goes to show you how much respect that Jalen demands, that he didn't even come off of him, man. So Ojomo, but he owed him a steak dinner or something.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's a selfless role, right, Vinny? I know. I think you and I have talked about this in the past. It's like sometimes you're hoping as the pinner that or hey, you know what, the offensive line's going to fall off and try and pick up Ojomo, and now I'm going to get in clean. But more often than not, it's going to go that way.
I'm telling you, that was just great execution. And then, like I said, the secondary, like you said before, the tight coverage. Yeah, pump fake. Once you pump fake, somebody's in your face is over. Yeah.
The other thing that is interesting about this play to me, Fran, is I think on both sides of the ball, this was a bit of a game of trying to break tendencies for the Eagles. There were some things they did offensively on that case. There were some of the plays in the red zone. But for Vic Fangio, most of the season, it has been Jahad Campbell coming forward and Zach Bond staying in coverage. And in this game in particular, it felt like much more of Zach Bond. I mean, even on the interception, Jahad Campbell is covering a tight end there. I guess, is that what you saw as well? And do you think that was a part of maybe confusing Baker Mayfield from Vic Fangio's perspective?
It could be like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to change things up because maybe you're not as scared of Kate Otten in space as you would be. Like they're going to run Puka Nacua in the middle of the field. We want Bond being able to patrol that space. If you're going to Kansas City and Travis Kelce, we want the seasoned veteran back there in Zach Bond running the middle of the field as opposed to the rookie. So that could be a reason why they felt comfortable making that switch. That's a good point.
All right, let's go to some of the bad here on defense, and that is the first of the two, really long touchdowns by the Bucs. Emeka Egbuka, Baker Mayfield finds him with what looked like a busted coverage by Andrew Makuba.
Yeah. It's honestly like with the two explosive plays here in this game. This is like classic rookie's gonna rookie, right? This is one of the perils of playing young players, especially in a scheme like this. And we've got Andrew Makuba circled. Grady and everybody has done a good job of breaking this down. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I think at the end of the day, you look at Makuba, they're playing a split safety coverage and they're running a 3-level stretch in his direction. So Andrew, if you go to the next shot here, essentially a 3-level stretch, you've got a receiver deep, you've got a receiver short, and typically almost all the time it's going to go to that intermediate route. Those other two routes are complementary routes meant to hold defenders. So you've got that underneath route that's going to hold somebody to the flat. That vertical route by Buka is supposed to hold Makuba. He's supposed to take him vertically down the field and create a huge void. Now, Makuba, I think he just kind of outsmarts himself on this one. We've talked about how he is a very good zone coverage defender. He's very anticipatory. He's going to try and make breaks on those throws, and he just jumped this a little too early, and so he kind of showed his hand there. So now Baker's going to be aggressive. I appreciate the reaction here, and you see that he's able to get back and is nearly in a position to make this play. Like, he very easily could have made this play. Outstanding job from Blankenship coming from the backside. But I think when you look at Makuba overall, they're going to be the coaching point there is you got to hold your water a little bit longer. If you are he did a good job of eyeing that up. That's where the ball's likely to go. But if he broke on it too early, and that's what allowed Baker Mayfield to attack over the top.
Makes sense. A thing that you would imagine is like you make that mistake once and you probably learn from it.
That's the hope, right? And I think that that's one of those things where you would have liked that kind of thing to happen in the preseason as opposed to in the regular season. But we know that Makuba obviously did not play too much in the summer due to multiple injuries, and so having him out there in that kind of situation, they were able to come away with the win. So it's a learning point there for the rookie. And honestly, we're not going to break the play down, but Jahad Campbell was another one where he just kind of got lost late in the down, just kind of lost his man, Bucky Irving down the field and gets beat. That wasn't like a clean win for Bucky Irving, but that was just one where he just kind of shook loose in a scramble situation late in the down, and Campbell was unable to recover.
All right, those red zone touchdowns by the Eagles were a lot of fun in this game.
Yep.
Let's start with the first one, the Dallas Goedert little ref toss pass from Jalen Hurts. What did you see there?
Yeah, so this is the first one. Great job, Andrew. So they come out in a personnel grouping that looks like potentially tush push, but and it's very important that we clarify here, Bo, just so everyone knows. This is not a tush push formation. All right, so they didn't come out in a tush push formation.
Unfortunately, this would come back to bite us anyway.
Yes, it does later. But they come out in this formation. You have a diamond set to the top of the screen, and essentially Jalen's going to give this over to Dallas Goedert, and it's going to be his version of the tush push out in space, where those guys are just going to create a seal for him. You're going to have Latu block the point man in the bunch. You're going to have Saquon Barkley pin the safety, crack down on the safety. You've got Grant Calcaterra working there as well. Lane Johnson just has to make sure that he scoops that defensive end and create that seal. And Jalen Hurts did a great job of being able to deliver this. You could see here just a really good execution across the board by everybody along the Eagles offense. Nice creative play to be able to get into the end zone.
Like that one a lot. And then they came back with kind of a throwback to Eagles coaches of yore on the next Dallas Goedert touchdown.
Yeah, and this was a really nice compliment off of what they were doing in the run game. Last week against the Rams, the Eagles did not run any gap scheme runs where you had pulling linemen and double teams the point of attack, working back the opposite way. But in this game, early on, you saw a decent amount of counter. And with counter, the first thing you're going to get, double team at the point of attack with two blockers coming from the opposite side. And so you see here, you've got the double team at the point of attack between Dickerson and Mailata. They're going to create movement on the play side defensive tackle. Andrew, go to the next shot here. here, you're going to get the kickout block from the guard. So Tyler Steen's coming across. Right now, this looks like counter. If you're the linebacker at the second level, if you're the corner, the force player at the top of the screen, this looks like counter all day because Tyler Steen's going to come kick the defensive end out, and then you're going to get Dallas Goedert looping around to block the play side linebacker, and then you've got Saquon Barkley taking this ball on the handoff, and the corner, he's going to respond in kind. Andrew, if you go to the next one here, that corner, he starts running to the outside. He takes himself completely out of this play, and you can see that Dallas Goedert already has the ball. So Goddard's got the ball on the shovel, and he's able to walk in to the end zone. So a really well-disguised play, a nice little change-up off something we haven't seen the Eagles run with this iteration of the offense, but a really nice execution down there in the low red zone to be able to punch this in for score.
All right, last one to go over with you, Fran, is the big play that started this game for the Eagles. And they had a big advantage on special teams in this game. Now, McLaughlin hit those 2 long field goals, but like even opening kickoff, Jake Elliott catches him off guard with the well-executed kickoff that gets them backed up on the 20. And then that leads to a punt. And as the professor predicted 9 days ago, Cam Latu breaks free.
Yeah, it was a really well-executed block here from the Eagles. And, Tampa Bay has had some issues in punt protection over the course of this season. So clearly it was something that they saw that they could be aggressive with. So even if Latu hadn't come close like in earlier weeks, I think this is another one where they said, we've got an opportunity here to go and make a play. This is another one where it's basically a stunt where you're going to have Sidney Brown looping around from the opposite side. He's going to be the one, obviously, to recover this, but you're going to get the straight rush right up the A-gap from Latu here on this play. And what I like here is that, look, if you've got the ability to win that A-gap, it's number one, it's important that you don't impact the snapper, so you've got to be really good with your technique. We talked about that last week with Jalen Carter on that key field goal block, but you've got Latu is able to win the A-gap. He penetrates and gets into the backfield. Normally, your personnel protector back there is going to be the guy that's going to kind of clean that up and pick up for your snapper in that situation. But because you had Sidney Brown looping around, now that's going to occupy the personal protector there, and that's why Latu's got a clean run right at the punter. Great technique. He attacks the point there right where the ball comes off the punter's foot, and then Sidney Brown, he's not looping around to block. He's looping around like, hey, if this punt is blocked, I'm going to be the guy to return it. And we talked last week, on Monday's show about how that was Jacorian Bennett in the on the field goal block on the Jordan Davis play. And Bennett, he saw the ball was going, and the holder was about to jump on it, so he went and cleared it. Obviously, that was not that was not the case here on this play. So Brown was able to pick this up, and he was able to take it back for a score. So really great execution across the board there from the punt return unit.
Love that.
That's
special teams breakdown. Now we're talking.
That's 2 weeks in a row. Good special
3 blocked
teams.
kicks in a row on successive snaps for the Eagles.
Michael Clay having a moment.
Yeah, he was fired up on the sideline. That was great.
Some things to clean up from a coverage standpoint, but there was a couple of those that came back due to holds. But
all right, Mr. Duff.
Not all sunshine and rainbows.
We will talk to you on the show tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Tell me when you fire this bad boy up early in the morning, what are you most excited to look into?
It's a tough one because games like this, it's like, all right, honestly, it's almost dependent on like how I feel when I wake up in the morning. Like, how's my coffee? Because it's like, all right, do I want to start with the good or do I want to go and see what happened in the second half? Offensively, I feel good about the defense overall. I mean, they gave up 2 explosives, that we talked about. So I think overall, like the defensive film's going to be pretty good outside of a couple of plays. Offensively, that's where it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult conversation.
Fran, do you buy the kind of Vinny's theory here that the fake tush pushes was saved for somebody a little bit personal?
I will like when because I was the one that pitched this for Swooper this week, and it felt like that kind of a game. I think when you look at you go back and you watch some of the tush pushes in the past, like it got a little chippy with this team, not to the level that it got with Washington in the NFC title game. But I think that this was something where I kind of felt this would be one where we could see some kind of a fake push. And so that's why, honestly, I submitted it this week. It felt like that kind of a game for Sirianni and this team.
Big flex.
Yeah, the chippiness with Washington was about them just being losers about it. Whereas with this, it's like Vita Vea is a huge man. Like he's going to try to hurt Jalen Hurts. And so it makes sense from like a protect your quarterback standpoint. If there's a game when you want to try to avoid it, this is probably the game.
Yeah, and it's they were able to get a couple of things on film for other teams to be able to think about, which is definitely beneficial as well.
There you go. All right, Fran, you're the best.